So these are the results of our 2013 Online Newsroom and Media Relations Survey that we do every year at Pressfeed. And for those of you who haven't been on our webinars before, Pressfeed is a hosted online newsroom technology. And every year we do an in-depth survey of journalists, bloggers, and the media and what they're looking for in terms of news content. And we ask the same questions to agencies, I beg your pardon, agencies and corporate PR people and marketing people who are involved in dealing with the media, and just to find out how they are servicing the media and what it is that the media is looking for in terms of content and what they want in a newsroom, and how well are the companies and the corporations, the organizations, nonprofits, how are we as PR people delivering on those needs as technology changes. And I'm sure you're all aware that this is a never-ending black hole, almost as fast as we figure out what it is we're supposed to be doing, there's something else that we should be doing. But that's why we do this every year, and we just like to stay on the curve and to know what it is that's going on, what's changed, what is happening with the media every year, and just do an update and see how we're doing. It's kind of like take the temperature and see what's going on. So let's do a quick look back at last year, and you could see that there was a really, really big disconnect when we did this time last year, that about 80% of the journalists thought that images were really important, and only 26% of PR people were actually adding multimedia and visuals to the releases. And one thing I have to say, just as a note, that the people that we have surveyed, it appears to me that most of the people who've taken the survey last year and this year even are fairly digitally savvy, because when we actually go and observe things like press releases and blog posts and look at people's newsrooms, the number is way less than that. So this was last year, and this is available in the Pressfeed newsroom if you want to see what was going on last year. And then this was the actual study of corporate newsrooms. The orange is the Fortune 100, the green is the Fortune 500, and the brown is the Inc. 500, which is the privately owned, fastest growing companies in the United States. So last year, in terms of image gallery, it was a very sad story. Video galleries even worse. Embed codes not even to be thought about. And the exec bios a little better. Sharing and connecting to the social content also fairly sad last year. So there are some good things to report this year. We have made some improvements. One of the things that we looked at very carefully this year was the use of visual content and multimedia, because it really has become, Forbes referred to it as a breakout trend, and it is expected to only last and expand. It's not going away. The media is very, very interested in visual content, and the reason for that is because the public is very interested in visual content. And I'm sure this makes logical sense to you. When you think about, if you go online and you look at a news site, what is it that grabs your attention? Would you rather read a long piece of text with no images or video at all? Or do you find it more compelling if there are visuals and you can see and get the rich central experience of what happened and really get more of the story. So what they're looking for is what they wrote here. This was from Forbes, saying that you have to create unique and compelling content that your readers want to share. So it's just a year ago when we were learning how to write text press releases with keywords in them and blog posts, long blog posts. It's just that those days are over. Readers, the public, are looking for interesting things that will inspire them, that will entertain them. And as soon as you have that, they're going to want to share it. Again, think of your own experience. What is it that you share? When you see something, somebody emails something to you, or you see something on a news site, or you see it on Facebook or Twitter, what is it that motivates you to go, oh my God, I have to send it to, and away you go, I'm going to post this on Facebook. Wow, that was amazing. The whole idea is that people know that it's possible to get visual content instantly and immediately. We know that because we all have these devices in our hand now. And somebody wrote the other day on Facebook, when I was young, we just lived life. Now we have to live it, photograph it, share it, post it, and make sure that everybody else knows that we're living it. But that is the world that we're in. What difference does it make to you? This was from PR Newswire quite a while ago, almost a year ago now, where they did a survey, or not really a survey, but like an analysis of thousands and thousands of press releases that go over the wire servers on PR Newswire, obviously, and taking as a baseline a text-only press release, and then if you added a photograph to that press release, it increases the views by 1.8 times. If it has a text and video, it increases your views by 4.3 times. If you have both, text with a photo and a video, it jumps to 7.4. And if you have everything in there that you possibly can, a photograph, a video, a chart, something to download, an infographic, all kinds of things, the more you have that they can interact with and that will grab their attention and engage them, up to 9.7 times. That's like almost 1,000% increase in the views that you can get if you add multimedia to your press releases and your blog posts and your articles and your Facebook page and your Twitter stream. Twitter has made it possible for you to add photographs and images and charts to your tweets. You just have to be using the right format to do it, and then it will show up right in your tweet stream. Another little test that was done very recently won an award. It was the first PR in Search award, and it was given out at PubCon in Las Vegas. Please excuse me. And they also won at the Society for New Communication in Boston in November. They also won an award for this test on press releases with multimedia. So it is a little tricky to do tests with press releases because you cannot send out the same press release exactly at different times and then see how it gets indexed in search and how many people read it, because Google immediately knows when something is duplicate content and they won't index the second one. So it's a little apples and oranges. We are aware of that. However, these were 3 press releases that were done for the same client for the City of New Orleans, for Get City Deals in New Orleans. It was over the Mardi Gras period. It was when there was also a huge big sports game going on, and there were about 1 million people arriving in the city looking for things to do, and Get City Deals put out these 3 press releases. So the first one was simply a text release, and that one got 3,255 views and 169 clicks on the link. The second one had a photo, got a little bit more, 3,406 views and 181 link clicks. And the one with a video won hands down, 5,559 views, 55% more than the text release, and 230 clicks on the link, 36% increase. So again, this shows you why it is so important to do this. And this is why the media wants these things, because believe me, they watch their analytics like a hawk. They know exactly what brings somebody to the site, what keeps them on the site, what makes them click links, what makes them come back. And that's what they need. They've got to have eyeballs and engagement. That's what a news site is all about. And they've seen from their analytics that it's the multimedia that gives this to them. So you get things like, when I talk to editors now, getting close, very close now to up to 100% of editors I've spoken to in the last 3-4 months have said it's policy. We do not publish anything in print or online unless it has good multimedia with it. I listen to NPR in my car all the time. And just the other day, I heard this statement. KPCC is not just a radio station anymore. Our biggest reach, this was an ad for them, for people to come and advertise on their station. Well, they don't call it advertising. Support them, underwrite them. That's what they call it, underwriting. And they were just saying their biggest reach is now their online and their videos. So yes, they're a radio station, but they've been hiring videographers because their biggest reach and their biggest place where they're getting eyeballs and where they're making money from people who are paying them for underwriting is not from their broadcast radio station. It's from their online website and all their multimedia, and particularly their videos. So when we're dealing with the media, we have to realize how important this is. So this is the 2013. When we asked the media and the journalists, how important is it for you to have an image with a piece of news content, a news release, a blog post, an article? 83% of them say it's important or very important, and the very important, 65%. That's a big jump. Public relations, how important do you think it is to journalists to add images to your news content? So the total is 38% only. Do you add images to news releases? Only 20% say always, and 18% say they do it often. How many of them have an image gallery in their newsroom? Amongst the Fortune 500, they do better, 71%, but it's not even all of them. It's not even 3/4 of them. And another little caveat on that is when you look at the image gallery, the quality of the pictures and go back to that statement about we need original, compelling visual content. It certainly isn't that. It's kind of prosaic. Yeah, okay, they gave us some pictures. That's about it. If I had to say, well, then it becomes subjective, so it's a little bit different. We're just looking at what is there, okay? So 71% of them have an image gallery. They're not the best image galleries in the world, but they actually have one. The Fortune 500, it just drops dramatically to 31%. And the Inc. 500, which always surprises me because these are the fast-growing, privately owned companies. You'd think that they would be aggressively courting the media. They need media. Only 15% of them have an image gallery. So when you average that all out across big and small companies, it's not great. And we look at video. When we ask the journalists, is video with news content important to you? 53% of them say yes it is. 35%, a full third of them are saying very important. How many of the PR people are adding videos to their news content? Always? A little tiny sickly 2%. We have 2% smart, really switched on PR people in the US. Often 11%. Sometimes 58%. Interesting to me, the question that we did ask was, what is it that prevents you from doing this? Were two things, lack of skill and lack of resources. But I have to say that that is changing. It doesn't have to be like that. Making a video is not the biggest thing in the world anymore. Anybody can make a video on a phone. The phone cameras and video recorders are becoming very sophisticated. There are books on how to take great photographs on your phone. There are apps that will help you to edit, and I mean, you can do amazing things. With an iPad, you can make a fantastic video. It's not that hard. You just have to get your team trained. And this is the future, so you really have to think about this. And then how many of you do have a video gallery in the newsroom? The Fortune 100, 63%. That's still not that great. It's not even, well, kind of almost 2/3. It's not a lot. Out of these are the biggest, best companies in America. When we get into the Fortune 500, it just dies to 32%. And in the Inc. 500, down to 11%. So the Inc. 500 in terms of images and videos are not doing that well. They really, really need to up the game. So when we asked to PR what is the importance of visuals for images, only 40% said they thought they were very important, and only 16% said they think that videos are very important to the media. Well, that's not correct, guys. You need to look at what the journalists are saying. 83% of them say that it's important to have an image, and 53% of them say it's important to have a video. So although this number is better than it was last year, we're still like on the other side of the Grand Canyon from where we need to be. We are not servicing the journalists. That's the long and the short of it. So half of the top 100 brands failed to provide images of sufficient quality in their newsroom. And 30% of them failed to provide even the most basic of image libraries. This is very sad. And videos, we really need to make our newsrooms truly media friendly. We've got to give them all the resources that they need. You've got to have your images in categories so that they don't have to search through it all. If they want product images, you need to have them in a section, and you need to have high-res ones and low-res ones. So if they're a print journalist, they know where to look. They're getting the right material. Make it easy for them. You have to understand that the newsrooms are under incredible pressure. They're down to less than a third of the journalists that they used to have like 10, 15 years ago. A lot of the newspapers and other newsrooms have laid off photographers. The Chicago Sun, a couple of months ago, laid off all their photography staff. Gone, that's it. They said to the reporters, you have a phone in your pocket, go take the picture. So if you can work with them and become a resource for them, it helps them immensely, and you become a valuable resource to them. One of the things journalists really don't like is being made to register. So I just took this from Accenture's Newsroom. in order to get into their video section, you have to register. Now, as soon as you do that, they're under such pressure many times they're not going to do it. 12% of video libraries that are there are closed off to anybody who hasn't registered. You should want people to share your content. The more people take your content and share it, the better it's going to be for you. So moving on to search engines. How often does a journalist use a search engine for researching a story? Always, 47% of the time. Most of the time, 42%. So it's really important that all your news content gets indexed and gets found. When we asked the people who answered our survey, the PR and marketing people, are you actually optimizing all your news content for search? 71% said they are optimizing the text, 53% said they're optimizing the images, and 45% are optimizing the videos. And again, the reason for this is probably because they just don't know how to do it. And that's purely just a lack of training. It's not hard. It's really not hard at all. In fact, tomorrow I'm doing a 4-hour webinar on SEO and content for PR University for Bulldog Reporter, and we go into this in depth. So as I mentioned earlier, although 71% of the respondents to our survey said they optimized the text and releases for search, when we looked at the releases over a 6-month period, going over all the wire services, PR Newswire, Business Wire, Market Wired, and PR Web, less than 20% of them are optimized for search. And if I take PR Web out, that number drops dramatically. And then optimizing the multimedia, although 45% of our respondents said they're optimizing images and video, that's definitely not the average. Looking at the material that is going across the wire services and looking at images and videos in company newsrooms, very, very few of them have been optimized for search. This is a big area where you could make a huge difference immediately. And then looking at the links in press releases, Google recently did an update on their webmaster rules, and they made some pronouncements about what links they count and what links they don't count and why. And one of the things that they mentioned very specifically was links in press releases. And what they said was that they regard a press release as owned content. It's not earned content. You wrote it, you put it out, it's your output, it's owned content. And even if that press release verbatim as is syndicated and picked up via the wire service on Yahoo Finance and CBS Market Watch or wherever, it's not, strictly speaking, earned content. You put it on the wire, you paid for it, and you knew that it was going to go to Market Watch exactly as is. All they did is they republished your press release. They didn't actually write a story about you. So in Google's viewpoint, it's still just a press release, something that you put out there, and therefore it's owned content. And they don't regard that as an earned link. So they're not counting it for SEO value at all. So there was a time when links in press releases did work for SEO, And the PR industry never really embraced this idea of SEO for press releases very much, but the search engine optimization community, boy, did they. So that in a way contributed to this because they've been writing very advertorial, spammy type press releases, which led to Google labeling a press release an advertisement. However, it is still fine to put a link into a press release as long as you're not doing it for the point of SEO results. If there's a link that you need to put in there because you have more data for the journalist or more data for the reader, it's a logical link. This is a press release about the fact that there's some new research and we're going to have a webinar about it. Well, of course, you need to put a link to the webinar so people can go and register. That makes logical sense. Or if you want to send them somewhere to download a white paper and you want to track the link, you can absolutely you can do that. However, just bear in mind that Google News doesn't really like too many links. As soon as there's lots of links in a press release, they regard it as very commercial. There are too many links, they won't even index the release at all. They don't like to see links in the first 150 words. So just bear that in mind. The best place to link to now that Google has made this change is that you should link to your corporate newsroom. The newsroom is there to be a repository for all your content. This is a place where the media and the bloggers and even the public can go to find all the latest news, all your videos, all your images, your contacts, the bios of your execs, fact sheets, story ideas, everything that they may need, you should have right there in your newsroom. This should be the hub of all your news content. And you house all your assets there, particularly related to a release. You can put a special section up for that release. If there's research data that you want to give or analyst coverage, you can put all of that in there and then just put one link and say, if you want to find out more about this, go here. And give them that one link and send them to a section of your newsroom where they can get all the data they want. Nobody can object to that. So we're looking at journalists' use of social media this year. Do you use social media to find stories? 59% say yes, they do. Do you use social media to find sources? 56% say yes, they do. And we asked them, how important is the company's newsroom? The journalists said, 82% of them said it's important. 97% of PR people said they think a company's newsroom is very important. Yet, when you start analyzing and picking it to pieces, all the things that journalists want in a newsroom, we're not really supplying. So although we think it's really important, the pieces we should have in there, we haven't quite got it together. What do the journalists want in a newsroom? These are their top 10. We gave them about 15 or 16 different things and said, please tell us which are the top 10 that you want. And this was the result. Number 1, contacts. And you may think that this is a really silly thing to say. Surely anybody in their right mind who puts out a press release would put a contact on it. Hello, I'm sending this to the media. And then what? Please don't call me because I haven't got my name on it. It's amazing, but it's not uncommon, even in the Fortune 100. Many of those newsrooms and news releases, no contact name to be found. When I started teaching PR at the university level 25 years ago, that was the number 1 pet peeve from journalists. I don't get a contact name. And here we are 25 years later, apparently having learned less than nothing And number one is contacts, and they want a real person's name and details. They don't want pr@yourcompany.com. And I get why companies do that, because people move and they go away. And if we had Mary Smith, now that email is incorrect. So you change the email. Really, it's not that big a deal. Number two, and this is really another one of those amazing jaw-dropping things, up-to-date information. It is not difficult if you have a good newsroom with a good content management system that can be updated by anybody who can use Word. That is possible. So there's no excuse anymore for your information in your newsroom to be out of date yet. A big percentage, even in the Fortune 100 and certainly in the smaller companies, the material is not up to date. Number three, images, and number four, video, and number five, let's talk about embed codes. So when we asked them, how would you like your videos to be delivered, over 80% of the media said we want an embed code. An embed code is a little piece of programming code that you can get easily off YouTube or Vimeo or wherever you're going to put your video. You can do it also with SlideShare. Many of these platforms now provide the embed code. It's not that hard to get. And all you have to do is provide that to the journalist along with whatever visual piece of content that you want them to use or you're offering to them. Give them the embed code. Because with that embed code, they can do 2 clicks, copy, paste, and that video or slide deck or infographic or whatever instantly appears on their site. This is a no-brainer, but we are not doing it. And you might say, well, if it's that easy to find it and it's on YouTube or Vimeo or SlideShare, why don't the journalists go and get it? Yes, it's a very valid question, but you know what? They're not going to do it. They want you to do it. And if you want them to use your content, then you have to do what they want. They are under a lot of pressure. Guys in these newsrooms are doing the work of 2 or 3 people. They have to do video and audio and learn. They have to learn all these skills. They have to be like a one-man band. Last year when I did I moderated the panel on the media relations event in DC, the conference. One of the journalists that I spoke to, he said, 5-6 years ago, when I had one deadline a day, I thought that was like horrific. I was under so much pressure. But when that deadline came every day, and that was it, I'd handed in my story, and then the newspaper went to print, I was done. I would go home and I would have dinner and I would relax, and then tomorrow it would all start again. Now, there is no 24-hour deadline. It's every second is a deadline, because that website can be updated as things occur. And I'm sure you've seen this when there's a big event. As things are happening, they're updating the news site all the time. Here's the latest. This is what this guy said. Here's what happened. This is how they're tracking this. Everything is happening all the time. So now these guys are working late into the night. They're getting alerts on their phones. They're sending emails. They're updating the editors. They're just working all the time. And they really don't have time to go and see, oh, I wonder if this company has videos. Do they maybe have an expert that I could talk to about this? If I really dig through their website for like half an hour, maybe I'm going to find it. No, they are absolutely not going to do that. So this is what they're asking for. If you don't have contacts in your newsroom, you absolutely have to put them in there. Make sure that everything in there is up to date. If you don't have images and video, you've got to have that. And with that, you need to provide them with embed codes. You need content other than just press releases. They want to see everything you've got. They want articles, they want tips, they want blog posts, they want to see your Twitter feed, your Facebook posts. Everything needs to be housed in this newsroom. They absolutely want expert bios because they're looking for sources. And they want to see who you've got, what do they look like. They want to know what they would be like if they interviewed them on video. So when you make your expert bios section for your newsroom, you have to take video of all these guys. Again, this is not difficult to do. The equipment, you could really do it on a phone, but if you want to go to the high end with a really good camera, a great microphone, a light, and a tripod, you can get all of that for under $1,000. It's not even a big investment to really get a professional product. They want to see your social profiles because, again, they're not going to go, well, wonder if they've got a YouTube. Wonder if these guys are on Pinterest. Maybe they've got Instagram. Unless you put it right there, they're not going to go and look for it. Now, talk about news feeds. News feeds are this thing called RSS, really simple syndication. And oh my goodness, don't we wish it were really simple. But many areas of the internet have kind of moved on and said, well, we're not that interested in RSS feeds anymore. Even Google closed their RSS reader. They're not supporting it anymore. Interestingly enough, the huge backlash against that came from journalists. Journalists use feeds. They have to follow a huge amount of content because they are doing the work of 3 people and because there is so much content and it's happening all the time. They have to stay up to date and they've got to follow content on their beat all the time. There is only one way for someone to do that, and that is by following feeds. You're not going to be able to do it any other way. Journalists use news feeds. And since our newsrooms are there specifically for the media, we have to provide news feeds. And then they want everything to be tagged. That helps them to find it, and it helps the search engines to index things correctly. So those are the top 10 things you must have in your newsroom. When we asked the PR people, what do you think the top 10 features are that a journalist wants in a newsroom, this is what they said. Number 1, the link to the social profile. 2, contacts. Number 3, content in categories. Content other than press releases, embed codes, expert bios, images, newsfeed, up-to-date information. Last on the list, but number 10, video. Well, fascinating to me that number 5 is embed codes, which you use with the video, but number 10 is only the video. So if you don't even have any videos, I don't know what you're doing with your embed codes, but okay, guys. It's just sometimes answers in surveys are very fascinating. But it would do you see, it's interesting that what we think the journalists want is not what they want. And when we ask the PR and marketing people, this is kind of the ultimate rubber meets the road question. Do you think that your newsroom meets the needs of journalists? Well, we're not doing that well, are we? Only 15% of us said definitely. 40% were like, meh, maybe. But the other 40% said, nah, maybe not. But we should all be able to say with great conviction, definitely. That's what my newsroom is there for. It's a service to the media. The only reason I have a newsroom is to service the journalists and the bloggers and the analysts and the investors who come to my site to find information. We should be able to say, what do you mean? What a stupid question. Of course. So going up from 2012 to 2013, in the Inc. 500 particularly, we didn't see that much of a change. A little bit more in the multimedia, a little bit more in the videos, a little bit more in the images, but not much of a big change. So if your newsroom looks like this, which an awful lot of them do, unfortunately, it's really, really time for a change. This is a little better. At least there's a little bit better. Okay. You can look by subject. They've got a few press kits. I'm still not seeing images. Okay, here's another one. One picture. Okay, here's another one. We have a big picture at the top, but it doesn't really do anything. It's not related to anything. We do have their social media on the side on the right. That's good. Links to the blog, which is great. And we have a featured press release at the top. Now, this is the new MasterCard website, their newsroom. They've just launched this. It's really nice. It was built in WordPress. You can build a newsroom in WordPress. However, there isn't just a theme that you can download that makes a newsroom. If you're going to build it in WordPress, basically what you're doing is using WordPress as the back-end content management system, but you're going to need a programmer who can tweak and reprogram WordPress so that it makes what you want on the front end. Because WordPress is a blog platform, and some of the themes can use it now to make websites, but there isn't really one that makes a newsroom. So you're then going to be reliant on always having somebody who knows WordPress well enough to be able to update it, handle it if it goes wrong. Because WordPress being free is great, it's terrific, but then there's no tech support. So you have to have somebody either on staff or an outside contractor who will build it for you and look after it for you. So yeah, it's not really free. Or you can use, there's several vendors out there who do hosted online newsrooms. Of course, Pressfeed, that's what we do. This is the Pressfeed newsroom. And you'll see that it has categories of content down the middle. You have your contacts, your images, your videos, tags. You can add your Twitter feed. You have the sharing. You have the feeds. There's company information, so you can go and get your exec bios. It can be custom programmed so that it integrates with your site. That just depends on how much custom programming you need. And this is a really simple one. They just, because their site is really simple, so all they had is the logo at the top. Then when we asked PR pros what are the features that they need in a newsroom, number one was a featured story with images, an image gallery, a video gallery. They would like it to be integrated with a wire service, so you post in one place and it automatically goes to the other one. That makes sense to me. The ability to make media lists and email the reporters, automatic syndication of headlines to the social channels, and I get that too, but I would say just be a little careful. Don't spray everything to everybody. It doesn't help to just automatically take a headline and put it in LinkedIn and Facebook and Google Plus and everywhere. You need to put a little more effort into that. There are different audiences in different social platforms, and you should be taking the time to tweak your content a little bit and put some things into Twitter, some things into LinkedIn, some different things into Facebook. It's just PR 101. It's segmenting your audience. You don't always send the same piece of content to everybody. Syndication feeds to media sites and blogs. Search engine optimization built in. Well, you can to a degree, but you have to write the content. You have to write the headline. It needs to be written correctly. If you write a headline that's like 20 words long, you have to realize that Google's going to cut it off after 65 characters. So you need to learn the parameters that need to go into Google SEO. You do need an easy content management system because you should be controlling all your PR content. And absolutely you need analytics to track the results, and you need to learn how to use the analytics. Google Analytics has a PR dashboard. It's free. You can download it. You can read a book called Teach Yourself Google Analytics in 10 Minutes. You get it off Amazon. This is absolutely something that PR people need, and you should have that in your newsroom. So if you combine this with what you need from your side with what the journalists want, where we write back here, there's your list of what you should have. If you are going to upgrade your newsroom, then take the list that the journalists want on the front end and all the things that you need from a day-to-day operational side to make it easy for you to be able to present this. And then that would be the list that you would give to your IT department, or when you're looking at different vendors, that's how you would judge them. Go through all their list of features and say, do you have this, do you have this, do you have this, do you have that? Okay. So if you have any questions, that's what we discovered in this year's survey, and I think it was very interesting, some interesting results. You can post questions. Let me see if anybody put any questions in. Lenore asked me, the definition of professional photo video is changing. A phone photo video by an amateur is acceptable to news organizations. Yes, sometimes it is. I would say that you should learn to make the best possible quality photograph and video that you possibly can. But yes, citizen journalism is becoming more and more acceptable. You know, we had a big fire here down at Griffith Park. I'm in Los Angeles a while ago, like some 2-3 years ago. And the fire was coming down the hill. My office at that time was right across the road from the backside of Griffith Park, next to the Warner Brothers studio. And I was thinking any minute now we're going to have every news crew out here. Nobody arrived. And when I spoke to the LA Times online editor the following day, I said, how come you guys didn't show up for the fire yesterday? And she said, do you know that within under 5 minutes, I had more footage than I could possibly use. There were so many people like you in the area who had phones, cameras, and they were just sending in their material. We had all kinds of stuff. You see on the news, people are saying, send us your stuff, tweet us this. They're using it all the time. But I would advise you to make sure that you can do it as well as you possibly can. Well, guys, that seems to be the only question that I have. So thanks very much for joining us. I hope it's been interesting for you and it's going to help you to upgrade your newsrooms in 2014 so that you can make sure that when somebody asks you, does your newsroom meet the needs of the media, you can say, of course it does. Definitely. Thanks very much.